Hi everybody. In this video, I will talk about how to send pull requests to update an existing record like here. And firstly, I continue with the previous lesson here. In this previous lesson, we can make this item to a separate component. So this item here is also a text component. So I have to create a new file and a flatlist item.js file name, and in this file I add a component named flatlist item. So this flatlist item will contain the swipe out to swipe and choose between edit and delete, to edit and remove an existing record. So firstly, install the swipe out library. We use a Reactnative install. So after wait a few seconds, I can see that the package has been installed and linked to the project. And secondly, I open the flatlist item. So inside this we have the constructor and the render function, and the swipe out is a parent view, and inside the swipe out we have the swipe setting. So the swipe setting will give you the settings for button. Firstly, we change the background color depending on the index, for if the index is odd or even. And this is the text display in here. It will display the property name and release year for the movie, so users can see and choose which record to delete or remove or edit. So the right here is an array. We have multiple buttons here inside the array. From left to right, we have the edit button and the delete button, which the type is primary. Primary mean the type is edit with a blue color, and the delete has a color of red. So the section ID is one default, and the row ID. So the row ID will get from the ID property of the record. So in this movie component, I will delete this code because this is not necessary, and replace with flatlist item component. So the item here is get from this item, clone to this. And the index, index property is the index. I will use it index as to choose which is which ID of the object has been deleted or edit. Import a flatlist item here from the flatlist item 5, and open the flatlist item. We can replace the row ID with the ID, the ID property of the record, and it is get from the server using the pull request API. After pressing the edit, it will now call to the movie component, and the movie component will show the model here. So firstly, I must add a model here below the main view. And edit model, what is this? Edit model is a model like this. We have the text input for input the movie name and the release year name. So the model use library modern box, Reactnative modern box. So you install by calling Reactnative install Reactnative modern box. So it will install and link to the library to your project depending on your the iOS or Android version. And here it is a screen. The screen size get from the window property using the dimension, and the model here is a React Native component consisting of the component inside, and we use a reference. The reference can be used as a variable reference, so you can call it as calling a variable. So on close, when the swipe close, not necessary to implement here. Firstly, we have the text. The text show movie information. We have the font size, bold, and text align to center. Secondly, we have text input. The text input gives information of the movie name and gets the existing movie name from the existing record. So we can have the placeholder text and the value get from the state. So you have to create the state to save this and binding to the text input. And we also have the state for release year, and I define here is a constructor for initializing some of the property after the component is created. And here we have the ID, name, and release year. We have a three property initialized in the constructor. And after the text input, we add a button. Okay, now the second text input release year, I do the same as with the text input for movie name. And below the release year, we have a button. The button save to update an existing record. So firstly, you check for the name and the release year. It must be not null, and it is labeled for button save or update. And then we can call the model from here by using the reference that I have just defined. So my model will refer to the property of model, and it is like a property in the class. So below the flat list, I add the edit model to the flat list. Below the flat list, and firstly, or default, it is hidden. It will have some of the property of movie component and reference. So I will call the movie component inside the model. So add an action type for update. So we have two actions: the action for update and the action called when the update is successful. And this is called separately when the response is received. This Redux Saga will call update success action. So implement this action, we have create some object for action. Import the action type firstly, and then write it for easier to see. And then after the first action below, I define some of the action or action object for update item action. And this action has input parameter is update movie or the new movie. And I transfer this with the object, so every object in the Redux Saga can know it to see. We also have the update item success action. This action will be called when the Redux Saga receive response from the server. If it is fail, it do nothing. But If it is success, it will call this. So this is action called by Redux Saga, not by user. Then inside what another case we have inside the reducer, we can define some of the function to convert the state using reducer. You import the action type here, and now you add more reducer for this action. So we have two reducer, update and success. But the update movie is not necessary because it do nothing. It do not change any state, because it only send a request to server, and it will not update the state until the request has been sent back. Okay, now so what about the case update success? It will for loop or travel on the item in the array and clone the object and change the value inside the object. So with each movie has the action ID is equal to the selected ID. It can change with a new movie name and new movie release year. Remember that only use this function with clone, not change directly the state inside this. You only use dot 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 or three dot each movie to modify an object, to clone an object and modify it. So inside the container, I define some of the property or map. The property map to the action and the property map to the state. So we have two action here, update and update item success action. So this action will be dispatched using the function to dispatch, and then map the dispatching function to the property here, or props. We have on update item action prop to dispatch an action, dispatch item action, and this function is not necessary because user never called this, but Redux Saga called it. So it is not necessary because user do not have any button to press to update item success, etc. So then in edit model, we access to the movie component in the root, and inside the movie component we have our on update item action. This is mapped from the container, and this state here is a state that I have just initialized in the constructor. So inside the API.js, we have the function of update movie from API to call put request to the API, and I export here to use in Redux Saga file. So firstly, you want to update this object or this record. How can I do this? So you copy this link and then use a put request. So we have a put request with the input parameter 2. ID is 2 means that I update this to the new value, and I can change the new value here. For example, the blind size new, and the release year is 2010, etc. Then you can press send to send a request, send a put request to the server, and after update successfully, it will return back to the application the status 200. 200 mean okay. So refresh the function here. We have the release year okay here. Okay, it is updated with a new value. The process of testing API is okay. So we come back to the code and redefine the API function. So we have an update movie from API. We get the link here by concatenating a string using a template with the URL put request. So we use a URL update movie. Depending on your API, it may be different, but for simplify, you can use here with the JSON server package. So the method here the same as this, but use a put, not post. The method is put, and the header is the same as post. And the input parameter, we have a name, we have release year. It means that it is something like the update function in your server update existing record with the ID, and it will choose the result. The result is here status year. Year in Redux Saga means that these commands must be called sequentially. So imports imports action type here, update movie and update success, and in the final we update the movie using the function update movie with the action. So the action can be sent from the reducer. Here it is the same object, so it is very convenient to use it without adding an input parameter to the latest function. So always use this try catch block to assure that you want to work with an unknown result API. So calling after movie to update movie to movie from API with check if the result is true. It will dispatch an action. It will call the action or dispatch the action with the input parameter is update movie to ensure that the update is success. Then after that, the reducer will change the state to your application. And inside this, I can change the key extractor to the ID. And yes, you can see added to the ID to ensure that each record has a separated ID. And I import the edit model here. So click to Flattest item. We can add a function to here to call or calling from the container, calling to the from the container to show the model here by using movie component and reference to edit model. Then call the function show edit model inside inside the edit model object. So where is this function? So now I will define this function. With the parameter is the property of the edit model. So the property include item, includes index, item index, etc., and movie component. Okay, so it is very easy to here to write a function to change state. So after changing the state, the user interface will be re-rendered, and all the property is converted to string if it is number. After so edit model, it will open the call the open function to show the model. What about the Saga effects? And inside this Saga, we add the watch update movie, and I forgot to run the watch update movie asynchronously. So this will be called and watch for the function. Okay, after fetching movie, we see the edit Star Wars, and Star Wars changed to Star Wars new, and 1978 save. Yes. So it will update very fast. Yes, the Star Wars new here, and the release year has been updated. So edit, Back to the Future new, and 1986. Okay, so okay, now this is the end of my lesson today. Please subscribe to my channel for more exciting video, and you can also download code in GitHub for more detail for testing here, so you can download here. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for my for exciting videos. Bye bye.